Hey, friends, and welcome to The Stride. And today it's episode 12 of The Stride with Sharbel Elias, a table tennis player, a very bright young man, and someone who we can expect a lot from in the future. So I hope you all enjoy this interview and discussion. So we go through like how the sport is different from what a lot of people assume it is because they've tried it a little bit, like all the different levels, like the physical, the mental, the strategic layers of table tennis, and what it demands physically from him, how he trains, and how he prepares for his games, and what's his future aspirations. I can promise you that like the level of depth that Sharbel is able to bring into the table tennis discussion is it's very inspiring. So I hope that you enjoy this interview. So it's December now, and yeah, we've been now doing this podcast for a few months already, and we're starting to see like people responding to it and reaching out back to us and asking questions. If you do have any questions, you can just drop an email to thestride@nextstride.com, and would be happy to respond. Or you can send a comment on any platform that you're listening or viewing this in. But yeah, that's it. Without any further ado, welcome to episode 12 of The Stride with Sharbel Elias. Hello, Sharbel. How are you?
Hi, Mr. Ahonin. I'm fine. How are you?
All good, all good. Are you joining from Cyprus?
Yes, I'm currently at Cyprus. I'm home. So yes, I'm all set.
Okay. So it's like December now. It's almost time for the end of the year. So any plans for the holiday season?
Okay, of course, yes. Christmas is coming. Family time is coming. We'll enjoy our holidays. We'll rest. We'll have some good time with the family, and get back to work after. Of
Yeah, of
course.
course. That's how it goes. That's how it goes. Hey, I'm very happy for you to join the interview here at the Stride today. Really excited to learn about your career, about table tennis, and there's a lot of questions that I have for you related to that. But before we go all the way to like high end table
Okay.
tennis,
Yes.
tell me a little bit about yourself. Where did you grow up in when you were born, and how you got into sports, Sharbel?
Of course. Okay. So I first began playing table tennis when I was 7. So basically, I started playing after my brother was playing, my older brother. He started playing the sport after he had one friend who was already involved in the sport. So okay, yes, speaking here and there, my brother started, and then he slowly pulled me in also in the game, in the sport.
Okay. So you had a role model close by. You didn't
Yes, indeed,
didn't know.
indeed, I had, yes.
Yeah, didn't need to go for searching far. So like table tennis is like I think the table tennis is one of those sports where a lot of people have experience of trying table tennis because it's quite accessible in many parts of the world, and you can see table tennis boards. Is it called a board, by the way, or how do you call it?
Sorry, tell me again.
Like, is it called a table tennis board or is it a court? How do you
No,
call it?
no, no. I don't know either. I can't lie. Table tennis, it's a court. It's a court.
It's a court. Okay, so you have those
Yes,
courts.
yes, it's a court.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've seen those courts. Like for example, here in Greece, I see those like for example around schools. Same in Finland, and so it's something that many people have encountered. But then, like playing it competitively is very different. The it's how did can you talk about like that transition? You first were introduced through your brother and his friend, but how did the transition happen from playing a little bit of table tennis and turning into a table tennis athlete?
Okay, so you start slowly. You start slowly. You slowly start getting involved. You start loving the sport. You start practicing daily, and this slowly pulls you towards the sport, towards the table, towards practicing. competing and all this stuff. So yes, it's a slow process, but if you love the sport and you love what you are doing, it happens automatically through time. As the time passes, it just gradually pulls you towards the sport, and you
Okay.
start playing more. You start playing more seriously, more professionally. Yeah.
Was there something in specific about table tennis that really drew you into it?
That's a good question. I really liked the fast pace of the points. So this bam 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 from close to the table, it was one of the aspects that grew an interest inside me for the sport. So
And how is it organized? So you're playing in Cyprus. Is it? Do you have like a personal coach, or are you playing as a part of a club, or how is it organized?
I train at the national team with the national team. So we are basically a group of people and we have daily practice
Yeah.
with the coach of the national team, the head coach of the national team, and we do our trainings daily. We are a group of people. We are the national team. We are the high end
Yeah.
of the players in Cyprus.
Yeah. How was the journey there? Like from being a kid, like entering into the competitive sports and going through the different levels all the way to the national team.
I can say that this happened relatively fast for me. So I started playing at 7. I loved the sport. I was training as much as possible. And then at 8, when I was 8, I got pulled into the national team with those players. But
Wow.
I was a small kid. I was a small kid with 2 or 3 other small kids also with me. So yes, we were like the small kids, not really in the national team, but a step before that. So yes, at 8, I started practicing at the national team with the national team. So yes, it was slowly started going up the steps,
Yeah.
playing with better players, and yeah.
Okay. So someone at the national team saw something in you, like this potential that
Yeah,
you
yeah,
could
yeah,
go far.
somewhat yes. This is also the story that my coach keeps telling me. He is my head coach, and we have another coach also. And the head coach was trying to draft some players for the national team,
Yeah.
for the group to make it bigger. And it was this second coach that kept telling him, take him, take him. And the head coach was like, why take him? What does this kid have special? And she was like, take him, take him. He loves it. He plays. He's good. Take him. He will. Okay, so I don't want to brag it, but yes, it seems like it did indeed work.
You're allowed to brag here. Don't worry. Who's the second coach then?
She's we have the head coach and she's like a helper. She was like a helper, like a second coach.
Like an
One
assistant
second.
coach. Yeah.
Yeah. She
Okay.
was she was a second coach, not of the national team, but
Yeah.
a bit lower.
Yeah. Okay. Well, shout out to coach. Good.
Shout out to the coaches.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
still support me today, both of them.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's of course like that's super important. I think that like at least in my experience, there's a couple of things that need to happen for full potential to be developed out. Or so first of all, yeah, you need to actually love what you're doing as an athlete, the passion for that, because it basically just asks for so many hours that you really must love what you're doing, because like regardless of how talented you are when you first start, then it very quickly becomes a question of who puts in the most effort, trains the most, trains the hardest, trains although the smartest. And that's where the coaches come in, because then they need to make sure that you're doing the right things in right sequence. And then the third element is
Hmm.
of course the like all the other support, so that you actually have the time and the resources to keep doing the right things. But I think
Hmm.
that you've gotten off to a really great start there with the Cypriot national team.
Yeah. I had a great start. This is true. Yes.
Yeah. So again, I'm rewinding a little bit, like back to that whole transition, because like for me, like table tennis is I find it always very curious, where there is this sport which is sort of widely tried, or like a lot of people try it, but then you have few people who become very good at it. And so if I describe my experience of playing table tennis, I'm consciously trying to react to what the other player is doing. And so I see them hit the ball, and then I try to sort of figure out where I need to go, and then I try to hit it back. And that of course works very well for like old slow guys like me, but then that you play at, it's like, so it's like faster than thought almost, like, so like how does that work? Because like if I look at your level of play, there's no way that you can actually sort of react to the game. So how do you know where you're supposed to be?
Yeah, it all happens unconsciously. I mean, and what you said before about your level not being compared to ours is what also is a common misconception about table tennis and what image people have in their heads for table tennis. And some say, it's not a sport and all this, but they don't actually know how much different playing sport in the basement is from playing normally the sport, playing professionally.
Yeah,
And yes, but all this with the movement and doing the strokes and all this happens unconsciously.
yeah,
This is something that you get used to through time, through training, through constant repetition and again of working constantly. So yes, it happens like this. You don't think about it, but you do it.
yeah,
Do it. Yes, you can correct yourself if you make one mistake and you miss one point. You can think, you should think basically, what did I do wrong now? What can I correct? My move maybe is a bit sloppy, maybe wrong. Maybe I have to adjust the angle of the racket and all this. Yes, this you do, but generally the core of the movement, the basic stuff of the movement, it comes
okay.
naturally through time.
So then when you're reading your opponent, is it something like, for example, I used to do kickboxing, and in kickboxing, you don't really have the time to react to a punch, for example. But what you actually are reacting to is how your opponent positions their body just before they punch you, so that you sort of see that, okay, now they're positioning like this, and if you've practiced enough and you've conditioned yourself well enough, then you sort of recognize the pattern before it sort of manifests as a punch. So is it something like that also in table tennis, that you're actually sort of reacting to the, let's call it the dance that happens sort of at the other end before the ball is even coming at you?
That's a good question. You can sort of predict of where the opponent will play based on previous points.
Yeah,
For example, you know that when you push the opponent long in backhand, let's say, and you know that for the past 3 or 4 points that this has happened, your opponent is playing back in backhand, then yes, you can know that you can somewhat expect the ball to come back again if you play the same ball. Because there's a reason why your opponent is playing the ball there. So you can somewhat expect where the opponent will play sometimes, but this is not always the case.
okay,
It's also sometimes you can see that the other person has positioned their body somewhat. Yes, this is true, to play a particular stroke. But when they do this, you can change where you are playing the ball. For example, it's my turn to hit the ball back, and I see that my opponent has turned already forehand from the backhand side. So in this way, I know before hitting the ball, if my opponent has done this already, that I can play him in forehand. So he's not ready, he's in a different position, and he got ready from before for something else. So yes, you can somewhat do that, but it works a lot of times, but it depends on the case. It really depends on the case.
okay. How about then, like, how different are different players? Like, do you study your opponents ahead of the game to familiarize with their style, or is it more or less the same approach for you for every athlete?
No, of course, we always try to study our opponents before the game. Sometimes alone, sometimes also with my coach together. We sit down and we study our opponents. So we basically search for strengths and weaknesses, what the players are good at, what they are bad, what they base their game on,
Yeah,
what is their good stroke that they always try to bring in their game.
yeah.
So yeah, we always try to go prepared in a game from before, to know our opponents and to somewhat prepare a strategy from before we go in the game. so that we are one step ahead of the competition.
Yeah. Okay, so you train with the national team, but exactly what level do you currently play?
I play at an international level, so I play in the Cypriot Championship. I also play in the Greek Championship because the rule says that you can play up to two championships internationally,
Okay.
but one has to be the Cypriot. So I play in the Cypriot Championship and in the Greek Championship.
Okay.
I also participate in many, excuse me, for ranking purposes, for experience and all this stuff. And ranking is very important actually because it's what gets you up the list,
Hmm.
and it's what will decide how good of a draw you will have when you go to European Championships, World Championships, and all this stuff.
Okay.
So I play internationally many opens. I participate in European Championships. I participate in Mediterranean Games, Commonwealth Games, European Cups, anything you name it.
Okay. So you've been competing very actively. I'm curious about the ranking system. So is the ranking system in table tennis, is it sort of inclusive of pretty much all of the different like open cups and stuff like that? Or is it that you sort of have two categories of events, some of which are included in the rankings and some which unfortunately are not? How is it? How does it go?
A bit of both. It's a bit of both. So for it to have a chance to be included in the ranking list, the tournament should be stated in the official calendar of the European Table Tennis Union or the International Table Tennis Federation.
Yeah.
So mostly opens have mostly opens consist of what will give you ranking.
Yeah.
But many other tournaments also, for example, the European Championships, World Championships, of course, Olympics, Commonwealth Games, Mediterranean Games, many of these.
Yeah.
But I can't. There are also a few instances where ranking is not included, but I think that's few. That's very few examples.
Okay.
If an event is listed in the official calendar, it most probably is included in the ranking.
So in
Yeah.
your experience in table tennis, the world ranking system works pretty well. Yeah, I think that's definitely a strength for any sport which has managed to get to the point where they have more or less of a definite ranking system.
Okay. I can't say it's really definite. Yes, it has a lot of weaknesses, I
Okay.
have to say. But okay, there's also many times a lot of confusion and misconceptions about how the system works. Many times we either don't even know if an event counts, if the ranking you get is based on how good of a player you beat
Yeah.
or how far you reached in a tournament. So yes, it's always a big confusion, I have to say, about the ranking system and how it works, its functions and all this.
Okay, so there's still like a lot to be improved.
Yes, this is true. This is true.
Yeah, okay, because I think that like the other tennis, I think that that's probably the hallmark of a ranking system. I would say probably across any sport that it's very definite and it's very widely recognized. And I think that for any sport, it's sort of a good role model to try and get there. But at the same time, I think that it's healthy to be cognizant that every system is always going to have certain limitations, certain blind spots. And even though every sports federation will probably try to make it as fair as possible, it's always going to be skewed a little bit towards this way or that way. So it's like, but that's part of the game, I suppose.
True. Yes, that's how
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah. So do you then like when you set goals for yourself with your coach or coaches, like do you set goals in terms of like I would like to see my ranking go from X to Y, or is it that you're just focusing on the sport and then the ranking sort of lives a life of its own?
The ranking is more like the vehicle to go to our goals. So it's not that the primary goal is to have a good ranking,
Yeah.
but it's the goal to have a good ranking so as to have an easier draw, to have an easier path in a tournament.
Okay. Yeah.
So because it is the way that how the ranking is working. the better of a ranking you have, the easier the path you will have in a tournament.
Okay, yeah. So it's so
So let's say
usually they
if I'm
try
a
to
player
organize.
and I sorry.
So is it so that in a tournament they're sort of trying to organize the starting arrangement so that the highest ranking plays against the lowest ranking, and then through elimination rounds you sort of meet in the middle?
That's how it is, sort of. Yes. So basically, let's say we have a tournament and we have a draws, we have groups, and then let's say we are groups of three, two pass a group, and then we go into knockouts until we reach a final and finish the tournament.
Yeah.
So let's say if I'm a good player, but I don't go oftenly to opens, I don't have good ranking, and I'm very low on the ranking on the. It's very possible that I will in the group I will be with somebody
Yeah.
that has very good ranking because they try to eliminate this so as to get the best to play with the best nearer to the final. So let's say how we said I'm a good player but I don't have ranking, and it's very possible, let's say, to fall with the to get a group with the first seed of the tournament.
Yeah.
And so it's very easy to have a bad draw if you don't have a good ranking, and this can cause you to qualify from the groups or to have an easier draw later when we are at knockouts. And yeah, it just makes things much more difficult.
How about then, like if we think about like building your competitive schedule for a year, how much tactics is involved, like trying to figure out who's going to be competing where and how to optimize your placements? Like, does that factor into your schedule building?
Yeah, of course it factors. We try always to find tournaments that are good in terms of the level,
Yeah.
in terms of the country we are playing in terms of the period. So let's say if I already have three other or four other tournaments to go to in 1 month, I'm not gonna add one more to make
Yeah.
it five. Yes, because we also have to include for rest, we also have to include for holidays and other, let's say things we have to do. So yes, we always try to find tournaments which are good, that the level will be good for us, that will help us. Yes, this is basically it. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's your main objective for
Okay, for next year, I try to raise my level as much as possible. A very big goal I have is are the European Championships next summer.
where will
Yeah, it's
those be?
always it's always
Where's the European
there will
Championships?
be it will be in July. It will be in Czech Republic, if I'm not
Okay.
mistaken.
Okay. So then it's
Yeah,
in
so
terms
we
of
try to
travel,
plan
etc.
for that one. Yeah,
Okay.
there's a lot.
Yeah. And so then you have a number of smaller tournaments and open cups before that to sort of um,
Mhm.
build you up towards the European Championships. And does the European Championship then, if we think of sort of link that back to the ranking system, do continental championships then sort of yield you more points on the ranking system than other competitions?
When you mean continental, you
Like
mean like
European,
World Championship, World Opens?
for example, the European Championships. Does it yield some extra points, or is it, or are the points just related to the individual opponents that you play against?
That's also a misconception we also have many times. The European Championships, they give you your ranking, yes, but when you go to European Championships, Cups, and all this, what we have come to conclusion is that European Championships and competitions, tournaments in general, they count for the European ranking only. But the World
Okay.
Championships, World Opens, World Tournaments, and all this, they count for both the world ranking and the European ranking. So this the big one counts also for the small, let's say.
Okay. Okay. So that's
Yeah,
then that does that mean that basically if you have the resources to travel more, then then you can sort of compete more efficiently by competing at the
exactly.
world open levels, and then you're counting points against
Exactly.
both ladders.
And it helps both. It helps both, yes.
Okay, so now I can start seeing what you when you said that the ranking system isn't perfect.
Yeah, yeah. It's a bit all over the place.
Okay, okay. Well,
or
that's pretty
or
liberating.
it's me not doing my homework enough. Well, it's one of two.
Well, yeah. But it does create a system where if you just have the resources, you can get by a little bit easier. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah,
Well, yeah. As I said, every system does have its flaws, but it's as an athlete, of course, it's important to understand exactly what the rules are, so that you can play to most of the advantage that you can get.
yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly, exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Let's change tracks a little bit. Like, so yeah, you said early on that there's a lot of misconceptions about table tennis as a sport, and some of that is because so many people have tried it, and then they maybe think that they understand what it is about, but it's different when you do it at the really like high end level. So besides, if we forget for a second table tennis itself, you're an athlete. What other training goes into your schedule to make sure that you're competing at the required level?
Okay, so away from the table, let's say we have training at the table.
Yeah.
Away from the table, it's really important to have very good physical condition for table tennis. So for this, I go personally to the gym. I try to go every day. So yes, it's really important to have a strong body. I train a lot on my legs. I also train a lot on the core, abs, and yeah, because it's really important to away from the table, away from the techniques, away from every movement and all this stuff. It's very important to have very good physical condition, to have a strong core for better reactivity, explosiveness, and all this stuff. And it's also really important to have very good legs because the legs are basically where the whole move is initiated from. So you start the power from down and you go to the hand and you explode on the ball. It's really important to have strong, fast legs because you need to get in the correct position to hit the ball. You need to have you need them. It's a very important component, let's say, of the body.
Is it if we think about the legs, are you training more like anaerobically for strength, or is there endurance training as well, or is it a mix of both?
It's a mix of both. It's a mix of both. I do weight trainings as well as lots of functional exercises and movements. So yeah, it's a mix of both, which both are equally important.
Okay. How about then reaction time training and things like that? Is that something that you actively train for, or is it that comes from the on table practice?
It's a bit of both. It's a bit of both. You get a better reaction time on the table. This is true through training and constant work. But you can also train for it out of the table, away from the table, in the gym. You can train for different hand movements or for reactivity also. Reactivity and what's the other word I'm trying to find? Reactivity and
The hand-eye coordination, I suppose. Yeah.
coordination is what I'm trying to say. So yeah, it's what I train a lot. This with the three tennis balls that you try to do like this.
Juggling. Yeah.
Yeah, all these things help. Gym work, it's all functional exercises. It's a mixture of everything.
Yeah.
Everything helps.
Have you done there's this challenge that I've seen going around in social media with athletes from different sports, that someone holds a normal like school ruler in their hand, and you keep your hand there, and then they drop it, and then you can see like measure exactly like how many centimeters did the ruler drop before you closed. Have you
I've
tried
tried
that?
that exercise. Yes, I've tried it before, that exercise, but
Yeah.
not with a ruler.
Okay.
So many times, yeah. But it's a good idea now that you're saying it to try also with a ruler to see
Yeah.
how fast I really am.
Yeah. We'll have
I
to
I
try.
do this exercise a lot with tennis balls. You
Yeah.
have the hands like this, and you have the other guy like this, and they drop them, and you try to get fast one or the other. Yeah,
Yeah. I remember seeing them like, I can't remember which is the Formula One drivers it was, but it was just crazy because the ruler hardly had a chance to even move before they catch. So it's really impressive. I think that
it
would be
is.
an
It is.
interesting challenge for you as well.
I'm gonna try it.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So okay. So you have all this going on. Then how about the mental side? Like in different sports, the level of, how to put it, level of animosity, let's call it that, between the opponents, like in some sports, especially I suppose in martial arts, it's pretty high up there. There's a lot of animosity
Mhm.
before the competition, not so much afterwards, I hope, but at least before there is a lot. And that's where the psychology like really plays into it. Also in a lot of team sports, the mental aspect is really important in how the team performs and how they can compete against a particular team. How is it in table tennis? How much psychology goes into
It
it?
is. It is very important actually. It's what my coach always says. It's 70% mind and 30% body. So yeah, it's very important to have a clear head during the game, and this also comes a lot with experience. So the more games you play, the more mentally strong you are at the table, the more you can figure out the strategy fast, the more you can understand what you need to do at the critical points when it's 2-2 in sets and 9-9 in points, and you really need that point. Experience is what helps a lot with that. But yeah, generally mentality is very important. You always need to have a clear head, a clear mind, and you always have to keep your strategy in mind. Always be focused, concentrate, and if one point goes wrong, you have to look towards the next.
Or do you play mind games with your opponents? Like, is there a staring competition or something like that before the game?
Many times, not staring competitions particularly, but many other mind games. For example, taking too long to get the ball after one point is finishing.
Yeah.
You can always like break the rhythm. Let's say if your opponent took 2 or 3 points in a row, you can always try to break the rhythm and go slowly or do something to get them angry, or I don't know. You can always figure something to do, yes, to play a bit dirty. But okay, this is always wrong. I always avoid this. I always try to avoid this sort of behavior.
Yeah, I think that it's a fine line that you need to dance there, like between honoring the rules and let's call it the spirit of the rules. That maybe something isn't strictly speaking forbidden in the rules, but it might still not be proper to do it, something like that. Okay.
Something else we always do, I would like to say this also.
Yeah.
A lot of times, when you win a point, you celebrate lots of times.
Yeah.
You're allowed to celebrate a point, and you can shout. You can shout. We usually shout "chow." I think it's a Chinese phrase. I
Okay.
don't know how it came up. I'm not sure. Yeah, so many times it helps also mentally. It helps ourselves to award ourselves for the point, to always get the psychology up, get the mentality up, and all this stuff. But when it happens wrong and for the wrong reason, is when you shout in the face of the opponent when you get the point, in order to rub it in their face, let's say, to look at them and shout, "This is illegal. This is wrong. You can get a card for this."
Okay. I think that
So
that's a good
yes,
rule because I think that
yeah,
it's one thing to celebrate your own success than to gloat the other person's lack of success
yeah,
or failure.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So there is a difference, and of course, like yeah, you can either be a good person or not such a good person, and it's better to take the high road. Yeah.
yeah. Of course.
Okay. Then how about like okay, we've been talking about the physical aspects of it and the psychological aspects of it and even the neurological aspects of the game. But how about then socially speaking? Like of course, like when you're competing, when you're in the match, it's very much a solo experience for you. But how about then in a tournament? You have your coach with you, other people from the national team. How much does the social aspects play into your performance as a table tennis athlete?
When you say social aspects, you mean generally with the crowd, the audience, with the people
That
watching.
too. Yeah, that too. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, it really is. It is something you have to look out for. You have to expect this, and slowly, I'll take you back to what I said about experience.
Mm.
Through experience, this also gets you get used to it. You get used to it. You get used to the people. You get used to playing the game. People watching you. You are on the spotlight. The camera is on you. Through time and through experience and all these constant playing games, you get used to it and the stress goes away. Because when you play first time under the camera, it's a lot different than when you play it 1,000 times under the camera.
Of course.
You are not tense, you are not stressed so much, you are used to it, you play your normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, do you get energy from the crowd?
Many times, yeah, many times. It's very, supportive when you have crowd, when you have a big crowd there.
Yeah.
They support you, they clap you, they shout for you when you win a point. You celebrate with them. It's a really, really good energy in the game. And yeah, generally in the stadium, when you see many people, it energizes you. It brings you up. It makes you want to play even more.
Yeah. How big are these events? Like overall, I think that at least in the past few years, I've only seen a few games, but I don't remember seeing any like, sort of panning charts to understand like how big these are as events nowadays. So can you share your perspective on this?
It depends on the event. Depends on the event. So, for example, you cannot expect to see as many spectators at the low level competition
Of course.
like you will see in World Championships and in the Olympics. For example, I was watching matches of the Olympics in France this year, and I mean the energy there was perfect. It was unbelievable. All the stands were full of people celebrating, shouting, everything. And I mean the energy, you can feel it. You can feel it even from home, even from the couch, sitting and watching. It's yeah.
So are we going to see Sharbel in 2028? That's going to be in Los Angeles then?
Hopefully,
Yeah.
hopefully, if I continue my path, if I continue training, yeah, nothing's impossible. I have to
Yeah,
say.
yeah. No, I think that you got into the game pretty young and you got a good start and you've done
Mhm.
already achieved a lot by now. So yeah, we're definitely going to be rooting for you there. And
Thank you.
yeah, so like, what do you think? Like, if you had unlimited resources, how would
Mhm.
you change your routines and like what would you change to make sure that you get to try your very best in 2028?
Yeah. First of all, I would leave from Cyprus is the number one thing to do. So I would go out there. I would go to live in a better country in terms of table tennis, that they have players at a much higher level.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that would be number one, to train with much better players, because if they are there and I'm here, they will slowly pull me up.
Hmm.
They will pull me up with them. I would compete in many more tournaments and opens. For example, at least let's say one per month
Yeah.
would be good. I would go to many training camps. The more you do, the better it is. So after getting out of Cyprus, all the rest you can do. All the rest you can do. To go to opens, many training camps, play with different players, try out different styles, get to know everything, a bit of everything, all types of players, and yeah, compete as much as possible. Mostly importantly.
What would be your, like, let's say, top three locations where what are the best places in the world for a table tennis player to live?
Number one, I would say China. Uh, generally in Asia, but most particularly in China and Japan. The sport is very advanced. I mean, for the Chinese table tennis, it's part of their culture. I mean, they teach it in schools. Everywhere you go, there's tables. No, it's everywhere for them. And yeah, number one would be China. Number two, I would say Japan, if you want, or we can include it together with China. Germany would be in spot two, I'd say. And number three, let's say France. France will be very good.
Yeah, I suppose like in Germany and France, it also makes difference that it's very easy to go to a lot of events because in Central Europe it's pretty easy to move around, so you can go to a lot of international competitions without having to spend half a day in an airplane every time you go somewhere. Okay. Okay, so then is there anything else besides that, like moving outside and competing more internationally? Is there anything like in your bucket list of things to how to improve your game that you could wish for?
In the bucket list. It's mostly what I've said.
Yeah.
go out of Cyprus, go to a much better country with much better players,
Yeah.
much higher level, and then everything gradually, automatically scales up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it is true. Like the better your opponents, the better you will be. I think that that's true. Like in every sport, then it remains a question of ego, like how well can one like adjust to that. But I think that it's true in every.
Yeah, this is how it is. This
Yeah.
is how it is.
Okay. Okay. I think that we've covered a lot of ground. But is there something else like so you've been heavily involved with table tennis for a long time, and you've already set the record straight here on a number of misconceptions that I've had. But is there something else that you'd like to get the word out there that people often misunderstand about the sport?
Okay, I'll continue a bit more on what I've said before.
Yeah,
It's what, again, it's a big misconception of table tennis that I also have many people telling me, you play table tennis, you do this, it's not a sport. Yeah, this is what I hear many times.
yeah,
And if only you knew is what goes in my mind. If only you knew. Yeah, there's a lot of training, lots of hard work, endless hours in the stadium, in the practice hall, endless hours in the gym. And yeah, it's what I mean. Many people confuse it for the basement table tennis they are playing in the garage, but they don't know it's much more different in real life professional table tennis and the high physical and mental demands that the sport has.
yeah, yeah. I can definitely believe that. I've had a benefit of having experienced many different sports up to a competitive level. I've never been as good as you are in table tennis in any sport, but I've been to a competitive level in many sports. And I think that what I've figured out over those years or decades is that every sport is a lot more demanding in every imaginable way than what you can first even imagine. Like it's like when you first see any sport, you only see the superficial, like as you said, like
Yeah.
it's just like this. No, it's there's so much that goes into every sport, into every movement, into exactly when do you do the movement, and like as you said, even to the point of figuring out exactly in which competition should I be in this month. So there's just
Yeah,
layers
because
upon
the
layers.
room for error is so
Yeah,
small room for error. You always have to strive for excellence, strive for perfection.
exactly. Yeah, and I think that like for me it's always been fascinating regardless of the sport. And it's something that I have a lot of respect for every competitive athlete in every sport, because it's at the end of the day, in some ways every athlete is the same. There's always the drive for the excellence, and just the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
exact form that changes a little bit.
So, sorry, tell me.
It's only the like this sort of superficial changes in a way that at the back of
Yeah, yeah, it's the physical stuff. It's the physical stuff in terms of mentality, in terms of the amount of work you have to put in, the amount of sacrifices. It's mostly basically the same through all the sports.
Yeah, and this is like also like one of the reasons why we've put together the like started this next ride, is that I also think that if companies are thinking about sponsorship, they shouldn't only think about how many people are going to be watching a game and so on. That of course is one thing, and it can be quite valuable if you can get your logo on TV. Then yeah, it can be valuable. But there's a lot of other value also. Like for example, like let's say that you have like an internal training at your company, and you need someone to talk authentically about like the importance of perseverance and sort of sticking to it and training and striving for excellence. Then the athlete doesn't need to be like a millionaire superstar to be able to talk about that, because that's actually something that every athletic champion knows, like wholeheartedly.
Yeah, I completely agree with this. Yes, I completely agree. Because as you said, from whichever sport you are playing, or let's say not even sport, in whatever part of life, in whatever path and career you go, when you try to strive for excellence and for perfection, I mean, in every aspect, the core beliefs and the core things that will take you there are basically the same everywhere in life.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Thank you so much, Sharbel. I knew that I didn't know enough about table tennis, but you've helped me understand quite a bit more today. I hope our listeners and viewers also found this as interesting as I did. So yeah, thanks again for taking the time for this interview, and best of luck for 2026 and for the European Championships then in
Thank
Czech
you.
Republic.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
In Czech, yeah,
Yeah.
right, right.
So we'll be
Thank you. Thank you
watching
very
you
much
together.
also. Okay, thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Have a great day.
Okay,
Bye.
see you.
Thank you for tuning into Stride, where we elevate the game for emerging talent in niche sports. Before you go, here's a quick recap of what Next Stride is all about. At Next Stride, we're driven by one mission: to revolutionise how athletes in niche and emerging sports are recognised and supported. We connect athletes and federations and brands through a trusted, transparent platform, creating real opportunities for growth and long-term success. Whether you're an athlete, federation, or a brand, Next Stride ensures your achievements, support, and sponsorships are recognised and rewarded. To athletes, join Next Stride to get verified recognition for your achievements and access sponsorships that value your potential. To sports federations, partner with us to drive recognition, improve operations, and open new sponsorship avenues for your athletes. To brands, looking for authentic connections with athletes and fans in niche sports? We provide a diverse range of talent, offering transparency and superior return on investment. Visit us at nextstride.com to learn more. And a special thank you to Arttu Silvast, who composes and produces all of the music and audio for Stride. We'll see you next time. Keep pushing forward.